Well, you're in for a real treat right now. We have Doug Kunin, the Eckankar's vice president, and he'll be interviewing John Kulick of Minnesota, who served for many years as an Eckankar staff member. And they'll be joined by John's wife, Marcia, who is an accomplished athlete, winning 6 gold medals in the 1984 Paralympics. Isn't that something? Yes. Yes. And the topic of the interview is finding your spiritual mission. Please welcome them.
Part 2. You had the younger adults panel here, younger generations, and now you have the older panel. We're kind of your surprise panel, your stealth panel. When we went to Dana Lovell, the program director, and we said, we're going in. We're going in. She said, okay. So, why are we here? Well, just for love.
Just for love.
That's why we're here. And because John here had a dream, he had a vision, a strong desire to give a talk at a major Eckankar seminar. So he asked to do it.
Yes, I did.
You created this. And here we are. It's a fulfillment of a dream.
It is a fulfillment of a dream.
It's a beautiful one.
And it's a wonderful dream.
And John has been a man on a mission for many years. He worked at the Eckankar Spiritual Center. He was in charge of the Eckankar Books Department. And in that capacity, he just loves to read and write and compile the works of the spiritual leader of Eckankar, Sri Harold Klemp the Mahanta, the living Ek Master. And that culminated in a series of books, including The Call of Soul. And John was very happy in that career, a man on a mission, like I'm saying.
Yep.
And then things changed. A disease crept up on you, and we've agreed we're going to name it tonight.
It's the name game.
It was a brain disease, a form of dementia that took John's ability to read and write and drive a car and do a lot of other things, took it away. And because of that, he had to retire. And so the man on the mission was now in this void. And it was a void of, how can I be relevant? How can I make a difference in my life? And that was a real challenge. Yet, you're so capable in so many different ways, and you offer so many spiritual gifts, John, that I've personally received and that others have too. And so we're going to tell some stories of how John has found a renewed mission through the struggles he's been through and meeting adversity, as our other speakers tonight have spoken about, and a sense of humor. Yeah. So first one is a story where John and I went to a community Hugh chant at the Temple of Ek in Chanhassen about a couple months ago. And John and I sat together, and right before the Hugh chant was going to begin, John leans over and says, Do you remember what you said?
I don't remember what
I'm going to tell you what you said.
Okay.
Don't leave anything on the table in this lifetime.
Yes. Absolutely.
Don't, and you said it with real conviction.
And I am saying it with real conviction right now, because you don't get the chance to bounce this around. It doesn't come back sometimes for people. And it's a real troublesome spot you can get yourself into, but you can also make that a relevant spot. And when you make that as a relevant spot, you become relevant, and you can do things that you didn't think you could do before, because you're doing them now, and you're working with it now. And it's that now effort that helps you get to another place if you want to go to another place. And that's what I've found. I've found that that's how I make myself relevant, and I make myself relevant also with people, telling them you're a good person. You're a good person when you do these kinds of acts of love and mercy for people, and take the time to let them tell you their story.
Wow. Incredible wisdom. It's just beautiful. So then came a time when Marcia became very ill. So this is during your retirement period. This is not that long ago, actually. It's this year. Marcia had a real illness that took a lot of effort and time for her recuperation and working it through and still working through. And so, given your condition, John went into a memory care facility, a memory care center, a beautiful place, wonderful staff. And that gave Marcia respite time to work with her condition. And John, you were really searching for what's my mission when I'm here at the Memory Care Center. You were really searching hard, and your inner guide, the Mahanta, as you shared with me, gave you maybe an unexpected answer. Do you want to share what that might have been?
One word answer.
One word answer. It's compassion. It's compassion. It's compassion. It's compassion. It's compassion. I can say it 1,000 times.
And you expressed that compassion with the other people who are at the center, the other residents there, in just incredible ways. And Marcia, just because you're a humble guy, and we're not going to ask you to talk about the acts of compassion that you gave. Marcia, I think, can share that and chime in as you will.
One of the ones I saw several times when I was there was that a lot of those people looked dysfunctional. Yet John would look them in the eye, sometimes hold their hands or put his hand on their shoulders, and he mentioned it earlier, but he would look in their eyes, soul to soul, and say, "You're a good person." And other times he would do things where, we used to do a thing in the morning where I would call him and I would remind him that he asked the Master to be a blessing to someone that day. And he walked out of his room every day with that on his mind. And he told me once, he said, "The more I give, the better I feel."
Yeah.
And then there was down times too, because one day he was taken away from his life, his wife, his home. And one day at that center, he didn't have a very good day. And we went to an evening hue in the chapel, and we came back, and there was a receptionist there that John has grown very fond with, and she has grown very fond of us. And when we walked in, John was kind of putting his head down because he really didn't want to come back. And this receptionist, her name was Gail, and Gail walked up to the side of him and put her arm around him, and she asked him, "John, where is the John that we've grown to love here? John, where is the man of God that is a cleric?" She turned around and put face to face, eye to eye, put her hands on his hips, and she said, "No, this is not what you're going to do." She said, "You are going to repeat after me." Do you remember what she asked you?
Yes, she asked me to,
I am John.
I told her I was John Kulick. I am an Eckankar cleric, and I'm here to do good things.
She made him repeat that 3 times until he had conviction. Gail gave him a big hug, a big kiss, told us how much she loved us, and we went back to the residence area where the rooms are. And he had a neighbor, and her name is Maria. She was a little lady from Paraguay, and I could see the light in John, but she could too. And she walked up the hallway with her hands outstretched. I was no longer there because John was focused on her, and he went and held her hands, and they walked around the area for about 3 times before Maria felt better and John felt better. Wonderful story.
Loved that woman.
And Gail gave him tough love, and he reacted just the way he needed to react.
Thank you, Gail. One more story here. So you were at the memory care center, and everyone was watching TV. In fact, might have been Dancing with the Stars. And they were doing the tango. And John was just looking and observing, and the ladies there in the wheelchairs and walkers, and kind of their heads would dun, 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 bobbing, and smiling, and and you had an insight on what was going on inside their heads and hearts.
I had an insight that these people were going back to heaven. They were going back to other places too, in the higher worlds, and that it was their way to go back to God again.
Yeah, when you shared this,
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I'll go for it. When you shared this story with a friend of yours, he said there's a waking dream in this dancing. That John saw that they were doing the dance moves in their heads and heart. They were kind of doing the steps. And the friend said, maybe this is a waking dream. And the insight was, soul never forgets the steps back home to God.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. It's a long road, but it's a good road.
It's a long road, but a good road. That's a great message. So we're going to start wrapping it up. We picked a quote together from the works of Sri Harold Klemp, going back to your compilation skills here. And this was where Sri Harold talked about the year he got God consciousness, he played a summer of baseball. And he said it sounded like an ordinary thing, but it was something he needed to do. And he wrote, life is to embrace. Unless one has done everything he feels is important, he has cheated himself of the full delight of living. Soul can take no material goods into the invisible worlds, only experience. Therefore, if a person feels strongly that a certain course of action would fulfill his life, why not follow it? So do you have a parting message? Lots of people might have friends or family members who face some of the same health challenges you have. Do you have a parting message to give us tonight?
Don't leave anything off the table that you came in here to do and take it off the table. You can't get it back.
Well said, my friend.
There we go.